first and foremost, thank you so much for joining Hard Lens Media. For our viewers and subscribers, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
First, thank you for having me. My name is Drake Materre. I'm the Assistant Project Coordinator for Natural Path Nutrition Incorporated. We are a nutrition education organization, nonprofit, 501c3. We are located on the south side of Chicago. And one thing that we do, run nutrition education programs, but we also run mentorship programs as well. And I think what makes Natural Path Nutrition Incorporated so important and so excellent, in my opinion, amazing, is our internship opportunities. We're not going to have interns come in and just get coffee and then that's it. Our thing is about leaving professional footprints for the youth, leaving professional footprints, actually putting hands-on, creating their own programs, putting on our annual rally and 5K that we put on every single summer, putting on multiple workshops that we do. It's an internship that gives the youth and people who are transitioning in their future stage in life, their future career goals. Let's say they're about to retire and they want to do something else. They still want to be involved. That's what Natural Path Nutrition does as well. It gives them something to do, something to create. Right, and I think when you give the youth the ability, the space to create whatever they want to create, you're going to see some amazing effects. You're going to see amazing things happen. So that's why I love Natural Path Nutrition Incorporated. And the executive director is Lauren Materre, i.e. my mother.
You know, I think the one thing a lot of people don't know is about really having community involvement, especially in the south side of Chicago. As we all know, and we've had with numerous other guests, we've talked about this before. Chicago is a hyper-segregated city.
Oh, definitely.
And you know, what I mean by this is that you have the north and the south side, but even within the north and south side themselves, there's individual communities that are better off, and other communities that are economically disadvantaged and are right now losing resources at an astronomical rate, and you have City Hall that's not really actively involved. So with your organization, what's community outreach, and how much does the community rely on you guys to, outreach and help support a community that's struggling right now? Because a lot of South Side communities are against the wall right now at this moment.
Definitely. So our number one approach is health and wellness, nourishment, nutrition. But when people think of nutrition, they think of just food. When we think of nutrition, I think of nourishment, and I think of nourishment for the mind, body, and soul. I don't think of just nutrition. So when I also talk about nourishment and health and wellness, economically well, politically well, so the one way that we operate in that form is we work with the CoMed Center, One Near North, during the week of Men's Health Week. And Men's Health Week is basically a week where men can sign up and get screenings for free for a whole week on everything anything you can think of. Not only that, but with our annual 5K and rally that we have every single year, which is always the Saturday before Men's Health Week starts, we have free HIV testing, we have free blood pressure assessments, we have men actually sign up for healthcare. So that is our number one. I feel like that is the number one way that we engage with the community, and giving the people in the community the assessments ourselves. Historically, African Americans, we have a mistrust of the medical system, and it's not exaggerated. The first thing people think of is Tuskegee, but if you read the book Medical Apartheid, it goes beyond just Tuskegee. It goes back into slavery and even goes into today. And if we look at the prison system and how men are being, there was an article I don't remember exactly when it was last year definitely, and they were saying that they will take 30 days off your sentence if you got sterilized. And if you're getting sterilized, something that's going to reproduce and create generation after generation, you're going to take that gift away from me for what, 30 days off my sentence? And if I'm in prison for, let's say, 20 years because of marijuana or something, which is unjust in itself, 30 days means nothing.
I think what thing that happened in Georgia, It might be or somewhere around there.
But there's also another similar connection too. If we look at the prison industrial complex, and what I mean by that is the for-profit prison system, the one scam that they do, especially in a lot of impoverished states, is that they say, "Oh, we can do a better job. And we can run ourselves cheaper."
Exactly.
They go to the state-owned prisons and get the healthiest prisoners. And that way they can say, well, we have the strongest, healthiest prisoners here, and we run more efficiently. We're not taking care of those prisoners.
It's the charter school of prisons.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so the thing is, and I want to really mention about healthcare. Sorry, I didn't mean to have a little stutter there for a minute, but about healthcare, because you mentioned that a lot of people in the African American community are critical of the medical system. Have any people at least reach out to your organization, anyone in the community reach out to your organization stating that, hey, we need to really start talking about single-payer healthcare, universal healthcare? I mean, is there a conversation or talk about that?
So the only reason why again, I do advocate for universal healthcare. I just believe that we need to have universal healthcare. If I have insurance, if I'm supposed to have insurance on my car, we value our cars, our materials over people, right? And accidents happen, things happen. So, I advocate universal healthcare. Because naturopath nutrition, we are a smaller organization. We're not like on the large scale, but we are doing a lot of things within the community. We haven't talked necessarily about advocating the universal health care because we kind of, for it to be a 501c3, we sometimes stay away from the political standpoint, but not to the point where we're never advocating anything. Again, we had healthcare sign up at the rally, so we support people signing up for healthcare. We support, and it was for the Affordable Care Act, right? Which was actually done through the CoMed Center, which we work with. So, me personally, I advocate universal healthcare, and I advocate healthcare for all. What people come to naturopath nutrition about is a natural path toward health and wellness. So nutrition education. And we also offer not only that, but like I said, workshops as well around the whole South Side community of Chicago, actually putting stuff forward so that people are actually having proper meal plans, meal preparation. This is what naturopath nutrition does. We don't believe in a Band-Aid approach, right? And I'm not saying that the healthcare system is a Band-Aid approach. I'm definitely not saying that, but we definitely want people to really get in touch with the root problem. It's kind of like if we're talking about racism, if we're talking about sexism, we're talking about homophobia, or we're talking about Islamophobia. Let's get to the root issue of the problem, which is, unfortunately, white patriarchal racism, which runs this world. Let's get to the root problem, and that actually is a big difference between Western medicine and Eastern medicine as well. Eastern medicine, get into the root issue of the problem, looking at natural herbs, looking at natural path to make sure that your health is ready. A Band-Aid approach is covering the symptoms, right? And if you just cover the symptoms and not actually covering and getting rid of whatever the problem is or fixing the problem, you're going to let that go on and on and on and on. So, yes, I personally advocate for universal health care, but I can't really speak on naturopath nutrition's stance on universal health care.
Tell me a little more about that, because I know that in a lot of places there's food deserts where people can't access, and I'm sure then there's also, it's not cheap to eat higher quality food,
and plus they're gentrifying too. They're building a Whole Foods.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's that like? What do you tell people to eat? What's that standard?
Actually, speaking on food deserts, I think Marie Gallagher, if I'm not mistaken, she did an excellent report on the food deserts in Chicago. And again, when I think of nutrition and nourishment and naturopath nutrition, yes, we're about health and wellness, but again, food deserts plays a part. Our health is really, culture is cultural as well, soul food or whatever, but it's also political and it's also economic, because food deserts are usually in low income areas and predominantly on the west side and south side of Chicago. And if we automatically think of west side and south side of Chicago, what are we thinking? Like you said, segregation. right? That all comes back down from redlining back before it was quote unquote, illegal. Yeah, back in
even though we still showed that redlining still.
Bank of America just had to give up what, 2.2 billion or 2.2 million, something around there.
You see it in the schools and the houses,
exactly.
and the infrastructure in general.
You could. There was I heard an NPR thing where it was like someone had like great credit, they had jobs, they had like 10% down, but they were African American. So when they went to get a loan, no one would give them any credit. Then they had their roommate co-sign, who's this white person with no job, and they got like 5 different loans at lower interest rate.
So yeah, we're dealing with redlining. Now we're dealing with reverse redlining, and then that has played a role in the creation of poverty-stricken neighborhoods within urban cities across America.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Harlan's Media, we've been covering a lot of the gentrification that's happening in Pilsen, Sauce Austin, the Northwest Side, and recently, when we first met, we actually met at a community event at Inglewood, which was discussing about the 4 schools that are going to be shut down. And it's very interesting. I want everyone to remember, if you want to check out that live stream, you'll see the very first introduction by somebody from CPS saying to everyone in the audience, I don't want anyone to scream or make a scene here. I don't want anyone to make a voice. I don't want anyone to cause a riot. And the thing is, everyone was respectful. The one thing that everyone stood out and had in common was, please don't shut down our schools.
Exactly.
And one teacher, there's a lot of great people who are quoted on saying why the schools are open, but one teacher in particular said, I want everyone at CPS to understand and remember this. If these schools are doing so bad, why are the students, teachers, and families fighting so hard to keep them open? So what I want to ask you right now is, can you give us a timeline in regards to the school closings in Inglewood? Because when Mayor Emanuel took office in 2011, at one point he shut down 50 schools, and now these 4 schools in Inglewood are at threat of being shut down again.
So they were going to originally shut down the 4. Now they're going to keep them open. I think they're actually going to close down 1. I think it's Paul Robeson, if I'm not mistaken. Close that one down, leave 3 open, and then let them graduate. So we're looking at Hope, we're looking at Inglewood, we're looking at those high schools probably only have a senior class in the next 2 years. Once that happens, then they're going to close those schools down. And then by then we're going to have the new $80 million new high school selective enrollment. And in my opinion, it is just a way to have the Inglewood students not go to their own school. Yeah. Again, on 63rd and Halsted, they got the Whole Foods, they got a Starbucks, they got Chipotle, they got a whole bunch of new stuff. They're trying to gentrify the ejarea to remove black people. And of course, regardless if you like him or not, Kennedy, I think it was Kennedy, the one who's running for governor, he said, Rahm Emanuel is trying to push out the black students, but black people in Chicago. But regardless of who's doing it, we're being, black people are being moved out of Chicago through taxes, through, unfortunately, the violence in Chicago plays a role. But they're gentrifying our areas, moving us out. Other people are going to move in. And the thing is, we talk about safe passage. Are we going to give the students that have to go to, let's say, the next high school, which is maybe 5 to 8 miles away, are we going to give them safe passage, those 8 miles?
I actually remember a story sometime when those 50-plus schools were shut down, that on the first day or first week, students were walking down those safe passes. There was actually a dead body that was found on one of those routes there. It was one of those things that stood out, especially as people were screaming out, "Please don't shut down our schools."
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you look at it just through a timeline of the city point of view, you have an influx into this. You have the white flight pulling out. You have white people moving to the suburbs, and now in a lot of ways it's starting to flip. That everyone's flipping. Moving back, and now we have to make room. So we got these are nice houses. They just got to be fixed up. Oh, the prices are really low. This is fantastic.
I see potential.
I could put a French door right here.
There are families already here. There are students already here. And you can't just keep displacing people and then blame you should go to a nicer community. And it doesn't work that way.
And that's the other thing that goes to it. You have people that buy houses in that area because it's so cheap, just to have like a weekend house in the city. They have had another house in the city, but the other point of it is that all the things that have been asked for by the community. Hey, can we get some better health? Can we get not having a food desert? Hey, can we have a bank in this area? All of those have been ignored for decades, but now that gentrification hits, all those things magically appear.
They magically appear.
Right. So what I want to ask you now, because now that everyone's talking about Inglewood gentrification and especially separation and destroying communities, an interesting point was said during the live stream where one woman said, I don't know why there's this West Inglewood hat group here. We're all one community. We're all one Inglewood. So for our viewers and listeners, what is the whole deal with Inglewood and West Inglewood? How did that come? How did that happen?
You know what? That is something that's even beyond me because I actually don't live in Inglewood.
Right.
So, but I think it speaks to a bigger issue where the black community itself may not be as unified as it needs to be when it comes to political issues, economic issues, social issues as well. The fact that we see a West Inglewood and an Inglewood, I think it gives the city an easier way to, of course, like I said, gentrify and move certain people out. Okay, we're going to take the Inglewood side, but, we're going to push you in the West Inglewood side. I'm just using this as an example. Now Inglewood is up there, but West Inglewood is down, and what's that going to do to West Inglewood? It's going to, of course, the property value is going to go up. It's going to, again, move more people out. And I think when we look at these type of communities and we look at what they're doing is, for example, we're going to take this community. We're not going to take this other community, but that's going to ultimately affect that community as well. Let's say we're going to take Woodlawn. Well, look at Hyde Park. Hyde Park, especially at the University of Chicago, is completely invested, in areas around it. Now Woodlawn is looking different. South Shore is about to look different. Mm-hmm. Brownsville looks completely different.
And Pilsen is also
is starting to look different. I was just over here on Western Avenue. They got the Peace Produce looks really new. Everything looks new. Mm-hmm. New houses. They're literally taking one neighborhood, one community at a time. And in my opinion, if West Inglewood and Inglewood were to understand again that we're one Inglewood, whatever happens in Inglewood, even though I may live in West Inglewood, we're not gonna make sure that Inglewood as a whole is good, because they're going to keep pushing us and pushing us and pushing us to not even the south suburbs, but if we have to still live in the city, we're going to move from Inglewood to, let's say, West Inglewood, or from Inglewood to, let's say, Calumet Heights or Chatham. They're going to keep going, taking each one by one. Mm-hmm. If we understand that we are one and connected, then we can say, let's say us on the south side of Chicago will be looking at us on the west side. We're going to work together to make sure that they're not taking us out one by one.
I recently had a conversation with a family member of mine a few months ago, and I used to bring up gentrification and the threat it poses towards our community. I live on the south side of Chicago as well. And one day we passed by this empty lot that's never been sold and never been developed. And one day it was bought and sold by a very high established realtor. And my family member turns to me and says, "Oh my God, kid, you were right. They're coming here too." And I said, yeah, this is a serious issue. So I think what a lot of our viewers and listeners want to know is what is necessary for some level of political pushback. Because as we all know, money in politics plays a huge role in our democracy, whether it's at the county level, state level, or federal level. So what's really necessary for political pushback, and have you been involved in any way with political pushback against gentrification?
I have been working with Willie Preston, running for 31st State District Representative. I'm with Willie because Mary Flowers has been there for over 30 years and no opposition. We can't. Mike Madigan has been there for the longest, 40 plus years with no opposition. And as part of Willie's campaign is a new breed of leadership. We as a people in the city, we need to we need to actually mobilize politically, right? How do I say it without sounding too, I'm just going to say it. We can't just fall in line with every Democrat that comes around.
Right on.
Mike Madigan is a quote-unquote Democrat.
Neoliberal.
Is it exactly. Rahm Emanuel, exactly. So it's when we look at the Democratic Party now, of course, for some, I'm going to speak on the black community because, I'm within that community. It seems like the black community only comes out. We need to come out when it comes to, let's say, city and local elections. Like you said, midterm elections are highly low. But when it comes to the presidential elections, everybody wants to come out. The president, we've had a black president. We've had Bush. We've had Trump. Rahm Emanuel is the one that's pushing us out. Bruce Rauner is the one that's pushing us out. Mike Madigan is the one that's pushing us out. Mary Flowers is the one that's pushing us out. And Mary Flowers is actually the person that voted to put the city of Chicago in the hands of the council instead of an elected board. And what Willie's working for is an elected board, right? Bringing the industrial schools back. And these are the people that we have elected. And I'm going to be honest, blackface is not black power. Mary Flowers is black. We have a lot of black. If I believe Illinois is like the highest state in numbers, basically, for elected black officials. But look at our condition. We're being pushed out. Like you said, we were asking for this, let's say, 2 decades ago. Oh, now it's coming in where you're pushing us out. The schools are going along with it. So you're going to take our schools away, but then you're going to give us a Starbucks. Then you're going to give us a Whole Foods. Now you're going to give us this. Yes. We've been asking for this.
And by the time the new school's finished, you're already out, and all these nicer, wealthier families are in.
You're already out, and
and you can't go to them.
And now you can't go to them. And I'm going to be honest, it's a selective enrollment school. Mm-hmm. Predominantly, who goes to selective enrollment schools and these high schools with, look, there's a school to prison pipeline, and you underfund elementary, so you have students who are not prepared to even, let's say, test in as a selective enrollment school. Those who may be able to test in at a selective enrollment school are probably those who can pay or go to schools that are funded in nice, developed areas, right, that can test into, let's say, Walter Payton or Whitney Young, and now this new school that they're opening up. So it is a way to make sure that students are leaving, that make sure that people are leaving through education. So my high school may be 8 miles away. I can't go to this new one, the one that just opened up. I, to be honest, can't even stay in this community anymore if I have to travel 8 miles to go to school and the taxes are going crazy over here. So you know what? I need to move.
And everyone just... Sorry, go
ahead. Oh, no, go.
I mean, it's access to information. It's access to opportunity. You can't educate yourself if you can't afford the internet. If your school's closing down, you're like all of these resources being cut out.
If you're not eating properly and you're in a food desert, how can you focus?
If you don't have mental health access, it's just
if
crippling.
If you don't have a pharmacy, if you can't afford the pharmacy, if you have a pharmacy.
It's all forms of oppression are interrelated. So every single institution...
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. It's all connected. And like you said, mental health, okay, now look, brothers and sisters are going through communities. They go to school one day, a student is gone because maybe they lost their life last night to violence. That does something to a student mentally. I mean, I went to private school, but at the same time, I know for a fact that has to have some mental effect on students.
Yeah, that's your friend. That's somebody you knew.
Somebody your friend. Somebody you knew.
I'm sure, Kit. This seems more relatable for when you were in the military. I mean, not you specifically. Because
I've never lost anyone while I was in service with them. So I mean, everyone came home alive and well in one piece. But there were 2 people who I did know who were attached to different units in different military bases that did lose their lives. And it does affect you because I went to boot camp and then the School of Infantry, which is like a second boot camp, with that person. And it's really difficult to lose somebody that you knew. But I mean, the difference is between
being able to process that as a child.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was an adult.
You're doing it when you're in another country,
serving in the military. None of my I'm going to state this again. None of my comrades who I served with, we all came home alive and well in one piece to our friends and family, and each one of those guys is doing a productive job and being a contributing member of society. The difference between what I did is just like, look, we did that signing in as adults, but as kids,
you shouldn't have to deal with that if you're a student.
That shouldn't be the norm.
That should not be the norm, especially in the city of Chicago. And what I want to ask you then specifically, because corporate media portrays Chicago as a violent, Wild West town. And the thing is, the one thing that the media fails to really acknowledge is gentrification and the real political impacts that it does. So why do you think it hasn't really received any kind of attention? Because when we look at all these low-income communities that are mostly people of color or working-class communities, when gentrification is moving in, people are thinking, oh, this is a good job. Look how nice these communities are. Why isn't the media really covering gentrification here in Chicago?
I think when you paint Chicago as this, like you said, this West Side story, or this the
Wild West,
Wild West story, or this place of mayhem and chaos, I think people, even black people, will then start to ask and actually want, let's say, something new. It's kind of like in the new Jim Crow when Michelle Alexander was talking about the prison system, how because of the violence going on, there may be black people that advocate for, let's say, more police, that may advocate for, let's say, tougher, penalties on guns, because this is what we're surrounded with. Again, when you paint Chicago with a broad paintbrush as this Wild West story, as this place of mayhem, as this place of chaos, you're going to get people saying, congratulations, or like to this new development that's going on 87th and where the Lakeshore Drive continues over on the east side. Mm-hmm. You're going to get people saying, oh, this is nice that we have Obama's library coming to Jackson Park. Now, I like Barack Obama, but that being placed there,
it's going to have a severe impact.
Especially with now, funny thing is, I won't be able to drive Cornell Drive, and I like Cornell Drive. They're trying to get rid of that. That's the funny part about it. But even transportation plays a major role. It's funny how if we're trying to get downtown to our jobs and businesses, it's just another thing hindering us from just trying to make it day by day. If you're going to put that there, it's going to cause a lot of traffic. I actually want it to be in Washington Park if they're going to put it somewhere, right? Jackson Park, University of Chicago has that down. Let it be where it needs to be. But then they're going to put the PGA Tour. They're going to turn Jackson Park Golf Course into a PGA Tour place with, I think Tiger Wolf is designing it. What's that right next to South Shore? Then they're going to move in the South Shore. And so we have to understand that the more we see new things, now I definitely am about investing, but I'm not about gentrification. I'm not about moving people out. I'm all about keeping our schools, funding the institutions that we have, making sure that they're on par. The problem is that we have bad institutions. We have bad this. We have bad this. When I was down at University of Illinois, where I go, we were trying to fight to save the Afro department. The school is basically like, well, we see the smoke, but it's not burned down yet, so we're going to wait. You're going to wait to see the Afro department crash before you do something. I kind of look at that same situation, I bring it here. You're going to wait till everything goes to its lowest point. Then you're going to try to save it, but then when you create it and it's in the hands of the city, when it's in the hands of those who wish to push us out, they're going to create something that's not going to benefit us. It needs to be in our hands. If we're going to, when it comes to investing, we need to be the ones that are controlling when the money's coming in, how it's going to be spent, where it's going to be spent, and make sure that the people, property taxes just don't go up like crazy.
Yeah.
To push us out. And that's when politics comes in. We need to make sure that our aldermen and everyone that we vote in are not passing these tax reforms, quote unquote reforms, that are pushing us out. We need a progressive, in my opinion, progressive tax that keeps us within the city. Taxes and everything else is pushing us out.
And not over assessing properties in low income areas too for double the amount that they're actually worth, while giving
exactly.
these nice luxury buildings half of it, and then also benefiting off of all the appeals that come out of the overassessments and the revenue generated from all the TIF districts that never even make it to the communities that they're taking it from. Again, investing in the properties that are being underassessed.
They make it back in the form of those same people moving in.
It's all connected.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Take the money from the poor areas.
Roll with it to the suburbs, then you're going to bring it back when you move in.
Not even that with TIF. You just roll it back to the city. You build up Navy Pier again. You give this guy, you want to put a Whole Foods here. So, but to go with what you're saying, it's like it's just, the system itself is designed to, without really any human interaction to a degree, let's make it uncomfortable so they leave. We get more people in that we want. It's more profitable for them to do it that way. I'm sure that if you're a man, you're like, I really just don't want to deal with Englewood.
Yeah,
let's just make it so that they all leave and go to the suburbs, and then I'll make money off that area because it'll be worth something.
Rahm Emanuel, who has during his 8 years is shut down schools, supported a lot of these large real estate developers moving in, and now is trying to paint himself as a progressive resistance leader against Trump and his policies. So the thing is, like I always say, it's important for us to get actively involved and to know how our political system works. So for our final question, for our viewers and listeners, where can they find your organization on social media so they can learn about you guys, maybe volunteer, donate if need be?
Definitely. Our website is naturalpathnutrition.com. We are actually working on our annual 5K and rally right now. The date is June 9th. The location is still to be determined. We will be dropping all that information soon.
Okay.
We definitely want people to be involved. We call it the New Age of Awareness Rally and Run. This is our third year for the rally. This is our first year for the 5K. And it's a great event for the community. It's being usually it's held south side in the Bronzeville community area. We have black-owned business vendors, not even just black-owned business vendors, but community businesses operating as vendors at the rally. We have, like I said, we have high blood pressure assessments, free HIV testing assessments. We had other health and wellness assessments as well. We had healthcare sign-up. We have people from the community, do spoken word, African dancing. So it is a great event. Not only is it fun, but it's also, as we call it, an ushering of a new age of awareness. And with everything that's going on now, the rally and run take multiple issues and combine it as one. Free HIV testing, free blood pressure assessments, and free health and wellness assessments. That's looking at health and wellness. We're going to have Gift of Hope coming out like last year, or talking about organ donation. That's about health and wellness. Public education. We had Judge Carl Anthony Walker come out, and so that we're talking about politics. So it's encompassing of a lot of issues that affect the community, right? And it's ushering a new age of awareness for the summer of Chicago.
That's a very good note to end on. Drake Materre, thank you so much for joining Heartlands Media. Yes, Daniel and Lauren, thank you for being here. And to all our viewers and subscribers, thank you for tuning in. We will have the audio podcast so that you guys can share the first hour of our coverage of Benjamin Wolf.
And the second hour. This was fun.
Yeah, this was a fun second hour. That was much needed. If you like what Heartlands Media does, we have a Patreon account. Check us out. Your support and donation really
everything
helps us.
We have you can find through hardlensmedia.com.
Yes, so please like and support us. Thank you again for tuning in. This was a very hard episode, difficult episode to talk about and to do, but we were glad that all of you on our live stream were sharing this, and please keep this communication going. Let's, again, let the people of the 5th Illinois Congressional District know exactly who Ben Wolf is and why it's important for voter turnout to happen, and why you need to look at the other candidates that are running in that district race as well. Peace to all of you, and let's all do what we can to build a better future.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.